Ladies and gents, one more CG reaction, and this is reality real? The simulation argument by the channel Kurzgesagt in a nutshell. And I think Vsauce3 is also collaborating in this video. Vsauce3, how badass you have to be so you created a channel that was so famous that you created another channel. You just like, screw that, it's just Vsauce2. Even that got so famous. You know what, screw that, I'm going to create another channel, I'm going to call it Vsauce3. So yeah, Vsauce3 is collaborating apparently with this. So yeah, Kurzgesagt is a great channel. You know, I've made a regular thing to react to it because I love all the topic, you know, this channel tackles. I love science in general about anything, unless it's science about animals. I still love that, but I don't have no knowledge about that. So yeah, this, I think I know something about this because it's fun. This is one of those things that, you know, it's like a, I don't know, philosophical type of thing rather than being hard science. It's just a what if it is this kind of topics. Wormhole is also like that. I know there are some, you know, theories and, you know, some equations that tells us the wormhole can happen, but I don't know, it's still out there. So as far as the simulation argument, you know, there was an argument that there is a real physical world there, and that physical world, someone in that world creates a simulation world that is 100% mimicking the real world. So anybody in that simulation world would not know that if they are real or not. Now they create, just like, you know, the real world people, the simulation world people also creates another simulation inside the simulation. They create another simulation, they create another simulation, and this chain goes down for thousands of these simulation worlds. So what this means is mathematically that there is a higher chance we are simulation than the real world, since there is only one real world and simulations after simulations. So there is a, you know, chance of us being real is 1 in thousands, I guess, or even more than that. And that kind of scared me thinking about that. But then again, I'm not good with names. I don't know who that was, but one scientist also came like, if we are simulation, we are not in the middle of those chain of simulations, because either we are the real world who's about to create a simulation world but we haven't mastered it yet, or we are the latest chain of the simulation after simulation after simulation. We are the latest one who haven't figured out to create simulation yet, and we are going to do it, and we are going to be part of that chain eventually. But it's only those two. We are not part of the middle chain of the simulation, because if we were, we would already know how to create a simulation world and we would have done it. That's how we become the middle of the simulation chain. We would have already created a simulation world. So chances are now 50-50, not 1 in thousands. That either we are the real physical world or we are the latest chain of the simulation world who haven't figured out to create a simulation world yet. So I'm good with that 50-50% chance. We might be simulation, but there's also high chance we might be real too. So yeah. I mean, in the end, you feel like this is stupid, I'm real, but how would you know? In the end, always, you know, I think, therefore I am. That's the only truth about everything. Everything else is open to interpretation. So how would you know? So yeah, this is a fun thing to think, but nothing to panic about. You know, yeah, so let's watch this one. And remember people, this is Kurzgesagt video, you know, just like real life lore, even the Vsauce and this, some of the video gets blocked. I don't know why. I have to put, you know, checkered box there if it happens, but we'll see. Let's watch this one.
We humans are unable to experience the true nature of the universe unfiltered. Our senses and brains can only process a fraction of the world. So we have to use concepts and tools to learn about the true nature of reality. Technological progress not only widened our knowledge about the universe, it also made us aware of unsettling possibilities. In the future, it might become possible to simulate entire universes. But if this is an option, how can we know that it's not already happened? What if we are not creators, but creations? Is it possible that we are not real and we don't even know it? If our current understanding of physics is correct, then it's impossible to simulate the whole universe with its trillions and trillions of things. But we don't actually need to anyway. We only need enough universe to fool the inhabitants of our simulation into thinking that they're real. Who needs billions of galaxies? We only need the space our subjects are allowed to explore.
The vast universe could just be a flat projection, and they would have no way to know.
What about small things like cells or bacteria? We don't really need them. When you use a
I mean, we did send the Voyager out. It did went outside of the, I guess, Oort cloud. So it is going there. It didn't hit the end or something, like a wall or something. Some galaxies, it seems like it's open. And, it doesn't have to be. I mean, like the game, with I forgot the sky thing. What that was? No Man's Sky. Somebody creating simulation could create regenerative things that just generate the universe as it goes. So you just need a few laws, a few patterns, and that just repeats itself and create this gigantic unlimited world. Why not?
Microscope, what you see could be instantly created. Same with atoms. The chair you're sitting on right now does not need to be simulated with quadrillions of atoms. We just need the outermost layer of it. It might be empty inside until you decide to break it open. Your body might feel like it's filled with bubbly things.
Whoa! Okay, so things doesn't exist, but as soon as you explore it, it generates itself to not break the realism feel of it. So space didn't exist, it was just sheet of paper. But as soon as you start sending out, rockets up there, now Voyager out there, it starts to generate itself. Is that it? Yeah, but if that's the case, first of all, we were observing before we went to the space. So what we observed, like this is star, these are the events that are specifically happening somewhere. And now we send the spacecraft there, so it suddenly has to generate now. It can't be just sheet of paper on top. So what if that generated things differs from what we saw before? Because before it wasn't a thing, it was a sheet of paper. Wouldn't it break the realism?
But it might be empty until you open it. The minimum requirement for our simulation is only the consciousness of our virtual humans. Our subjects just need to think the simulation is real. Okay, so are we being simulated?
This is so Matrixy, isn't it?
Well, maybe, but there are a few conditions that need to be met. Obviously, we have no authority over this topic, so please take everything we say with a grain of salt. Based on a modified version of the original simulation argument by Nick Bostrom, we have 5 assumptions for you. If they're true, you, dear viewer, are living in a simulation.
Maybe.
Assumption 1. It's possible to simulate consciousness. Nobody knows what consciousness is. For the sake of argument, let's assume that you could generate consciousness by simulating a brain. Brains are pretty complex.
If you count every interaction between synapses as one operation, your brain runs at about 10 to the power of 17, or 100 million billion operations per second. Let's generously assume we need 10 to the power of 20 operations to simulate 1 second of human consciousness. But we don't want to simulate just one human, we want to simulate all of human history at once so we can skip around. Let's say we want to simulate 200 billion humans with an average lifespan of 50 years. 1 year has 30 million seconds, times 50 years, times 200 billion humans, times 10 to the power of 20 operations.
So we need a computer able to handle 1,000,000 trillion operations per second. More operations than there are stars in the observable universe. A computer like this is just impossible. Except maybe it isn't.
It's not impossible. I mean, why is it impossible? Smallest processor like this small processor can process a lot of ridiculous things that we thought would be impossible just 100 years ago. So I don't know. I don't know about impossible. It's probably not impossible to process that. But yeah, as far as consciousness, is it possible to simulate consciousness? We don't know what consciousness is. So anybody who simulated us, whatever they put there, we will think that that is consciousness. So it's not hard of a concept to get by.
Assumption 2. Technological progress will not stop anytime soon. If we assume that technological progress continues in a similar fashion as it has so far, then there might be galaxy-spanning civilizations with unlimited computer power at some point. Beings on a technology level so advanced that we could barely distinguish them from gods. A computer that can handle a million, trillion operations.
No being, regardless of how intelligent it becomes, doesn't matter how much technology it uses, won't be able to do magic. So it won't be like God. It won't be able to just move hand and move mountains that people think and associate with God. So yeah, it will be higher intelligence, sure.
Is serious business, but there are actually concepts for computers which could handle this. The Matryoshka brain is a theoretical megastructure made up of billions of parts orbiting a star feeding on its radiation. A computer of this scale would have enough power to simulate many thousands, if not millions, of humanities at the same time.
There you go.
Other technologies, like high-end future quantum computers, might lower the size drastically, so it might be possible to do this with a structure the size of a large city, or even smaller. But only if there's still someone around to build the computer. Assumption 3. Advanced civilizations don't destroy themselves.
Yeah,
If there is a point at which all civilizations destroy themselves, this whole discussion ends here.
Alright, about that assumption comes from the pattern, like how we treated each other so far, how Europe was constantly with war to each other, and to that I think just because that's the pattern so far, it's not going to be like that going forward too. I think after a certain intensity of destruction, like nuclear warfare, people will realize like this is a bit too much, let's stop. An example of that is during the Cold War, Russians got alarmed that a nuke is coming from the USA. Russian power told a major or somebody to attack USA too with nuclear missiles. That major didn't follow that order because that major thought that there is no way in hell USA would attack Russia. That's how confident he was. Like, nuclear warfare is not going to happen. Regardless of what we think, every human inside like, come on man, nuclear warfare, I'm gonna throw nukes at them, kill hundreds of millions of them. They are gonna kill us, our hundreds of millions of people. That's a bit too much. So I don't think nuclear warfare is gonna happen. It's just like show off kind of thing. I have nukes, you have nukes. Let's just chill out, everybody. That's where it's going to go. I don't think we are going to destroy each other. But yeah, that's just what I'm thinking.
Into space, you'd expect a universe filled with millions of alien civilizations, but we see nobody. The reason for this might be great filters. Great filters are barriers life has to overcome, like nuclear war, asteroids, climate change, or a black hole generator.
Climate change, yeah.
If life is inherently self-destructive, then there are no simulations. We explain this in more detail in our Fermi paradox video.
Yeah.
Assumption 4. Super advanced civilizations want to run simulations.
Yeah.
When we speak of post-human civilizations, we don't know what we're dealing with. To think we know what beings as powerful as gods want is pretty arrogant. Imagine the smartest ant on Earth living next to an amusement park. It's curious about what humans are up to, so you try to explain. Unfortunately, the ant just doesn't understand. The concept of roller coasters and standing in lines and holidays and fun doesn't make sense to an ant living an ant life. It's the same with us and a post-human being. Compared to them, we are ants. Running simulations for fun or science might be an absurdly stupid idea to them. But if they do want to run simulations for whatever reasons, and assumptions 1 to 3 are true too, then the chances are not zero that you are living inside a simulation. Assumption 5. If there are a lot of simulations, you are probably inside a simulation.
Not inside of one.
If there are simulated civilizations, it's likely that there are a lot of them. After all, we assume that post-human beings have access to practically unlimited computing power. So if they run simulations, it would be convenient to run millions or even billions of them. If there are billions of simulated universes, there are probably trillions and trillions of simulated conscious beings, which would mean that the vast majority of all conscious beings that will ever have existed are simulated. So for every conscious being made of flesh, a billion simulated ones exist.
Since we have no way of knowing if we are simulated, or not. In this case, the chances of you being one of the 999,999,999 simulated ones are pretty high. So what you consider reality might not be real at all. You really might be simulated.
All of this is based on a lot of assumptions.
Now, like I said in the start of the video, I don't know which scientist was that, but he was really famous one at that. He says basically that if you are one of the middle simulations, that means that you created another simulated world, and we haven't. So that just means either we are the real world or we are the latest simulation of the chain of simulation who haven't created a simulation world yet. So there's 50% chance, not one in a billion or whatever.
That we can't really test right now, so many scientists disagree with this whole thought experiment. So don't burn your house down to test if there will be glitches. If you are simulated, not that much.
If the world is simulated, glitches are not going to appear. Everything that you would experience, if it will be like, you feel like you experience it real like. I mean, that's what simulation is. I mean, if you burn down the house is gonna get burned down. If you try to kill yourself, you will die. I mean, just because it's simulation doesn't mean it will not mimic the real world. So this is one of those things that you probably will never know.
Changes for you. You might be on a small planet speeding through eternal nothingness, or a simulation inside a computer. Your existence does not become more or less scary and bizarre. All we can hope to do is try to live good lives and have a good time. And hope that if we actually are simulations in a supercomputer, nobody trips over the power cable.
Oh no. I think I just unplugged the simulation. But what if that doesn't matter? What if we are in one right now? What if you are simulated?
Jake over at Vsauce 3 is looking into that. Click here to watch his video and subscribe to his...
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I'm pretty sure unplugging would not shut off the simulation if it's at that scale. It would be, it's self-powered somehow. You wouldn't need something to unplug. I don't know. So yeah, simulation, I think there's 50% chance. I think you will never know it. But then again, when you really think about it, everything in the world goes completely fine. Everything is fine. Then there is suddenly a sudden, disruption of events suddenly out of nowhere. It feels like some entity is doing that just for entertaining itself. There are lots of random chaos events. They're like, what the hell? And look at the Hitler. Hitler, how that came to be just because of one person. Entire World War II happened. Look at the current events. I mean, last time 2008 there was lots of Wall Street falling down, people got hurt and everything. Then 12 years went by, no major event happened. Then suddenly, you know what, let's do something. 12 years went by, nothing happened. There you go, pandemic. I don't know. That might be like weird thinking, but there you go. Alright, I guess that was Is Reality Real? The simulation argument by Kurzgesagt. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out the reaction. There's a link in the description. Check out the cast for the playlist. Check out the end cards. I'll see you next time.